Good afternoon. It's the afternoon experiment. I'm Emanuel Livingston. I know I'm about 10 minutes late. About 10 minutes late coming on. But there's a few things out here in the news that I want to discuss. But before I do that, I want to thank everyone who took a few minutes yesterday at 4 o'clock to check out The King and I. Feels weird saying that, being the king, but take a few minutes to thank the people who took some time to check that out. I had a good time. Wyatt and I, we will get together, figure out a day and a time so that we can consistently do it and it doesn't interrupt my schedule, his schedule. But yesterday was kind of a trial run. We wanted to get in, kind of get a feel for it and check it out, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm always learning stuff, so I enjoyed learning, and being able to get that perspective from Wyatt, who's a guy who's connected. He knows a lot of the players, probably knows all of the players, and I come from the opposite side of that spectrum. I know none of the players. I'm not connected, and it's always interesting to hear a different perspective than the one that I have. So I appreciate everybody who took the time out to check it out. I do have a little guest here. You just can barely see the top of her head, and she's good and occupied. So we should be able to go today, and that not be a concern. She's on YouTube watching cartoons and such, so she is good, um, and she'll be just fine. Um, let's see. There were a few stories that I wanted to discuss. I saw the story of the police officer here in Cincinnati police officer who was reassigned and then fired after getting pure evil tattooed on his knuckles. Anybody else see the story? Yeah, Cincinnati police officer was fired in late April for tattooing the words pure on one and evil on the other knuckle. Eric Wada, 50, dismissed from the department for failure of good behavior and insubordination. Yeah. Because, they have apparently a policy where they're not supposed to have like neck tattoos and face tattoos and all of that kind of stuff. Now, if they already had them, then it's cool. But this is after that policy. He went on ahead and got pure evil tattooed on his knuckles. Pure evil tattooed on his knuckles. And so, yeah, they fired him, which is good. Crystal says, did you get the video I sent you through Messenger? I did not. I will check my my message. Again, I don't have Messenger on my phone. So, and really that's kind of the only way that I get on Facebook, unless someone says, hey, I sent you something, and then I get onto the actual computer and check it out. So I will check it out. Let me see. Says I missed a call from Crystal. But yeah, I will check it out. I will check it out, Crystal. A few people saying they like The King and I. Well, good. I'm glad. We both enjoyed doing it, and we're both committed to doing it. So it will be back. It will be back. I got to glance over every once in a while to see what she's looking at, because you never know what goes on in cartoons and stuff nowadays. Oh, the call was a mistake. Okay, cool. But yeah, so officer gets fired for tattooing pure evil on his knuckles. Actually, initially he was working, he did it. They put him at the impound lot, and then someone complained about it at the impound lot, and he says, I made a bad decision by getting the tattoos on my knuckles. Says he made a bad decision. He says they have meaning to him, not only where they're at, but what they say. He explained that the tattoos on his hands represent a struggle between good and evil. Higher ups noted that the message could be perceived by the public as hostile. As hostile. Quite simply, a police officer's hands should be seen as a symbol of safety and security rather than a provocative message of depravity and harm. So, okay. They say his annual performance report show that he consistently received a needs improvement rating in categories of grooming and dress, as well as complying with department policies and procedures. Okay. Okay. Of course, he's appealing. He's appealing. Appealing being fired. It'll end up going to arbitration probably, and he'll get his job back with back pay because that's how they do. That's how they do. But well, maybe not. Again, he didn't shoot an unarmed black man or beat somebody down or something like that. So they might take those tattoos and stuff. They might take that serious. Now, if he had said something about ends or something like that, then he definitely get his job back. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So that's out there. Let me see. There was another story. This story I just saw come up. A man was shot in Alabama. Police shot a man aggressively trying to get into an elementary school. Yeah, apparently, according to this particular story, he was seen, he went from door to door in this particular elementary school and he couldn't get in. They say he went to several doors trying to get in. When the principal saw this, they locked down the school, called the school resource officer, who then called for backup. And at some point, they ended up shooting. Say when they saw him doing it, they locked the school down, called for backup, and eventually the children at the elementary school were asked to evacuate the school from a side parking lot. From there, they would be bused to safety at a nearby high school. Man, I don't understand. Look, I get liking weapons. I get that. Because, if you ever go out and shoot, especially if you're doing like some target practice or something like that. And if you're just, I don't know how to, there is something about it. It is fun. And you want to get better at it. You want to, I would love maybe one day. I would love maybe one day to have a shoot a fully automatic weapon. I think that would be cool. That would be fun. So I really do. I get wanting the weapons. Daryl says the king and I was a one-time thing. No, no, no. We're going to work it out. It'll probably be a weekly thing. We'll figure out a day and time that works for everybody. But back to the gun thing. I would love to one day shoot a fully automatic weapon. I think it would be cool. It would be fun. Like Anthony says, it's a hobby. It's a hobby, just like anything else. So I get that. But what's with the war on our children? What's with that? Who in their right mind? And I say in their right mind, not necessarily excusing everybody that wants to harm a child as having some sort of a mental issue. To say it's sick, but not mental illness sick necessarily. Not mental illness sick necessarily. But who are these people that want to harm little kids. Who wants to go into an elementary school and shoot, stab, beat, choke, whatever little kids? And when people say, well, this stuff didn't happen back in our day, I, I really don't recall a lot of and I mean, I guess I was a kid, but and I wasn't watching the news. But I never felt unsafe at school. Um not from something outside. Like worst case scenario, it was some big kid that was trying to bully me and I had to stand up to him. You know what I'm saying? That's the least safe that I ever felt at school. Tornado drills, maybe. I remember once apparently there was a tornado and we had to go into the basement. That's things like that, the least safe I ever felt in school. I couldn't imagine having to do active shooter drills. I couldn't imagine that. Jason says the machine gun eventually in Kentucky or Target World may still have 4 automatics. Okay. And the cops in Bama did the right thing. Show these people if you try to harm kids, there is no trial, just you getting clapped. I don't know if he was killed, but I know, or at least they're reporting that he was shot. And look, if you try to get to young kids and you end up getting shot, now I don't know what he was doing. I don't, they say he went to different doors. So I always try to be fair when I do this. It's an initial report. They don't have a lot of details. And people don't always report things accurately. People make stories up or embellish. So I try to take all of that into account. But if it is what it looks like on its face, or at least the way it's reported on its face, you trying to get into a school aggressively and kind of in some way trying to harm kids and you get shot, I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with that. Of course, as they say, the devil is in the details. So, what happened? How did he get shot? Did you have to shoot him? You know what I'm saying? Things like that still matter. I know that sounds a little off. I keep trying to harm kids. What do you mean? Did they have to shoot him? No, that still matter. That still matter. Like if you can subdue a person without shooting them, even if they try to harm kids, if you can subdue a person without shooting them, I think that's what you're supposed to do. So, that kind of matters. But on its face, I'm not against the police doing what reportedly they did. Not against that. So, but what's up with that? Hold on, let me see. Somebody said, oh, this stuff all this clicking. Dante says evil. That's who wants to do things like that. Evil. I think that's but why? Why are people more evil now? Like what's leading people to be more evil? What's creating these situations where people want to be more evil? Like to me, this is a little different than say Columbine. Columbine, you had some kids, depending on who you believe, what story you believe, some kids who were bullied and felt like we're going to take our revenge. And again, that's not good. That's not good. But that's different than a random person, like what, Uvalde or however you pronounce it. That boy was 18. That boy was 18. He wasn't being bullied by those little kids at the elementary school. So, to me, that's different. Again, you kill a lot of people, it's not good, period. But at least in Columbine, you look at it and you like, there's some warped rationale, but at least some rationale. You 18 going into an elementary school shooting kids. Where's the reasoning behind that? Or you're a grown man trying to get into an elementary school potentially to harm some kids. What's the rationale behind that? The little kids didn't do nothing to you. Little kids didn't do nothing to you. The other school shooting, which I can't remember, the one that a lot of the people say didn't actually happen. I don't know why I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, that those kids didn't do anything to them. I don't understand it. I don't understand where all of the animosity towards our children are coming from. Lewis says, it matters to you. It does not matter to rational people. Not Sandy Hook. Thank you. Somebody told me. I think Lewis, or at least I would like to think it's just the opposite. I would like to think it's just the opposite. I would like to think it matters to rational people and it doesn't matter to people who aren't rational. Because look, and I'm assuming you're talking about me saying if you're trying to harm kids or if you're trying to get into a school to harm kids, there should be a reason for police to shoot you. If they can subdue you, they should subdue you without shooting you. Yes, that matters to me. I think it should matter to all rational people. And I'm not saying that the police didn't have a reason. I've said it, and that was that. And then Lewis says this, and it bugs me when people don't think about the ramifications of things like that. The ramifications of, because Lewis, what you're really saying, if that's the way you feel, is that police should be able to shoot people that they don't have to shoot. If they feel like what you did is bad enough, they should be able to shoot you. And is that really what you want in law enforcement? I don't know that that's what any reasonable person wants in law enforcement. Come on, don't we look around and see that there are some warped people in law enforcement? And you can't just give them a blanket, here, go out and shoot people if you feel like it. Come on, bro. That's not reasonable. That's not reasonable. Yeah, even if you're trying to get into a school to harm kids, and I can come up and put hands on you and cuff you and get you out of there without shooting you. Rational people think like this: if you harm children, you deserve to die. Well, first, he didn't harm anyone. He didn't harm anyone. And I think that your premise is dangerous. Because again, okay, you believe if you harm children, you deserve to die. Again, I don't believe in the death penalty, so we're not on the same page there. But then somebody else will say, well, I believe if you do this, you deserve to die. And whatever the this is, you might not look at it and think that. Okay. I don't know. I just think we got to begin to think some of these things through before we say them and put them out there and repeat them over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. But that might have something to do with, again, me not believing in the death penalty. I believe it exists. I don't think that any of us are righteous enough to carry it out. So, but that's just, I think it's irrational your premise, Lewis. I think that's irrational. But that's, I chalk that up to differences of opinion. And we're allowed to have different opinions. We're allowed to have different opinions. I've ran across this story. Assistant NFL coach apologizes for comparing Black Lives Matter protest to January 6th riot. Jack Del Rio, he apologized after making comments comparing the insurrection to protests following the killing of George Floyd. And what he said went a little something like this, talking about the Black Lives Matter protests. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being burned down. No problem. And then we have a dust up at the Capitol. Nothing burned down. And we're going to make that a major deal. I just think it's kind of two standards. That's what he's reported to have said by the Tampa Bay Times. Of course, people kind of didn't like that because it doesn't make sense. And here's his apology, which is not an apology. And I'm slightly not mad at him for not apologizing. I mean, I don't agree at all with what he said. But I think, look, if you said what you said and you believe what you said, don't apologize for what you said. Don't apologize for it. He says, I made comments earlier today in referencing the attack that took place on the United States Capitol on January 6th. Referencing that situation as a dust-up was irresponsible and negligent, and I am sorry. So that's what he apologized for. He apologized for saying that what happened on January 6th was a dust-up. He says that was negligent and irresponsible. And I don't know if he really apologizes for that either. I think he probably still thinks, that was just a little dust-up. He goes on to say, I stand by my comments condemning violence in communities across the country. I say that while also expressing my support as an American citizen for peaceful protests in our country. I fully supported all peaceful protests in America. I love, respect, and support all my fellow coaches, players, and staff that I work with, and respect their views and opinions. All right. He also said he was simply exercising his right to express himself. He says, I express myself as an American. We have that ability. I love this country, and I believe what I believe, and I've said what I want to say. And that part of it, I kind of respect. I kind of respect that. I said what I said. And I meant what I said. And at least now we know where you stand. Now, clearly, what happened on January 6th and what happened in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, totally different. Totally different. January 6th, you legit had, and I really don't know that a lot of people think about this in this way. You legit had a group of people working, in my opinion, working under the direction of who was the current president of the United States. They were legitimately attempting to overthrow our government and to undo democracy. I know a lot of y'all done thought about it. And for a lot of y'all, it makes sense. But the idea that the president of the United States would, I don't want to say order, but would suggest to people, because he wanted to win an election that he lost, that they should go to the Capitol, disrupt what was happening, and attempt to overturn the will of the people so that he could get another term. It's not a stretch. It's not a stretch to believe that if he get another term, he doesn't like democracy. So okay, he's had 2 terms, and then he decides, I want a third. Well, you can't run for a third. That's the way it worked. Well, what about you? All right? Sure. All right. What about the idea that I don't like that? I want to be here until I die, and flip us from being a country where we elect our leaders to a country where basically we have like a monarchy of sorts or a dictatorship where Donald Trump is the leader, and then Donald Trump Jr. is the leader, and then his son becomes the leader, and then that's what they were really working towards. It wasn't just go down there and cause some hell. They was legit, in my opinion, they were legit trying to undo America as we know it. And y'all, that's serious. That's really serious. Like, look, I know, we got issues in America. I know we got issues in America. We do. America is not always fair. America's, especially to Black people, we got all kind of issues going on. There are things that this government could do that they don't do. We got issues. Dante says January 6th has nothing to do with me. I'm not concerned. I think it does have something to do with you, Dante. It does. Bro, they tried to overturn the government. And if you like living in a country with freedoms, I don't think I'm overselling this. I really don't. If you like living in a country with freedoms, you got to be against what happened on January 6th. Well, they wasn't trying to take my freedoms. First, they were trying to undo the vote. And if you can just undo the vote, this is me stretching it just a little bit, but I believe it's a legit kind of, I can't think of the word, and I don't know why. Progression. I think it's a legit progression. And if I can undo the vote, I can take away your right to vote. Why even let them vote if we gonna undo it if we don't like the results? So then I can take away your right to vote. And just imagine Donald Trump. Some of the things that we've heard that I wholeheartedly believe about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, number one, he don't like Black people. He don't like Black people. I won on the post game. Okay. Number two, remember when people were protesting because they wanted some accountability in policing? They wanted to see some things change. He wanted the police to just go out there and shoot them. He wanted the police to go out there and shoot those people. So then he could take away your right to vote. And I mean, we could be back to where, as Black people, you don't have any rights. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I have to end this broadcast. I have to end the broadcast kind of abruptly. Just got a message, and it's something that I have to deal with right now. I apologize sincerely, and thank you, little baby. I apologize sincerely. I'll try to come back on if I can. But until next time, it's been the afternoon experiment. I apologize.